I'm sorry. 10,000? 314.
Yeah, that will make everything come out in the budget.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Lynn.
Lynn. Great.
Steve or Steve?
Steven.
Okay. We're a little light tonight, folks. The driving is fine. There's no precipitation. Where are all your neighbors? If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the Republic of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. This is always my fun job. I love seeing people that I don't see any other time during the year, and we have a good time with it, and you folks are always well-mannered, and you know what the rules are, because we've been here for, actually, I've been here for 36 years. So little time. Not quite that long for the school, but yeah. And like I said, this has always been my fun job. So in case, I don't see anybody, but in case there's anybody here who has not been here before, I'm just going to quickly go through the rules of the meeting. We're going to proceed through the warrant in the order that they appear. I'll announce the number and the subject, and we'll recognize an individual for the purpose of making a motion. Once we have a second, the person making the motion will be given the first opportunity to speak to it. After that, anyone else can come to the microphone. You will identify yourself and show me your yellow card if you have one. If you don't bother getting up. You're going to be given 3 minutes. I'll recognize you as you're lined up at the microphone. Speak clearly, state your name and address, and address your comments or questions to me. You're not going to, or you're going to avoid debate with other voters here. Voters wishing to speak again should yield to anyone who has already had the opportunity to speak, and a motion to call a question will not be recognized if it is the first comment by the current speaker. It will be accepted by myself if there are significant speakers wishing to speak. We're going to go through. If people are standing in line, I'm not going to recognize a call to question. We want to give them an opportunity to speak. Amendments, if there are any. One amendment will be considered at a time. The proposed amendment must be presented to the moderator in writing. They must address the subject matter of the original motion and may not be stated as a negative. All speakers must be courteous, no personal attacks or inappropriate language, but then you all know this. Non-voters may not speak, with the exception of consultants or experts with information pertinent to the article. Votes are not taken on main motions, but will be taken on all amendments. At any time after debate on a motion has been completed, a vote to restrict reconsideration will prevent that motion from being brought to the floor at a later time. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to the warrant. You probably have it here in your yellow book. Article 1 we don't deal with. That's the election that's going to come up on the April 11th at your normal polling sites. Article 2 is the operating budget. Finley, that's as printed?
I was going to read it, but if you'd like it as printed, I can do that.
You can do either one. You can do either.
And of the town, raise and appropriate an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately. The amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant.
Finley? Bring it close.
Shall I begin again, or is that?
That's better.
Did I begin again?
No, you're all right. Everybody's reading along with you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to begin again because I don't know where I just finished. So, shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling $38,791,564. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $35,300,821, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law. Or the town council may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only, recommended by the town council 600, and a majority vote is required.
Second.
Thank you, Nancy. Finley, you want to speak to this?
Sure, just quickly, I'd like to give a few highlights. It's kind of become our method of dealing with our operating budget so people have a reasonable understanding of what they're looking at. As far as general fund appropriations, there's been a number of things, I think a lot of them predominantly impacted by inflationary pressures, but I'll go over a few of those that I have listed here. We have an increase in the computer supplies line of $45,000. Our street sweeping budget went up $16,000 this year. Our general liability insurance went up $11,500. We have in our solid waste tipping fees, they've increased. Our contract expired and we came up with a new one. Our biggest increase was in the recycling budget. It went from it's raised $52,500. It went from $105 a ton to $150 a ton. On the regular waste stream, the increase on that line is $20,500. It went up from $79.25 to $81.85. The reason for the big difference in recycling versus regular disposal is transportation costs. They're included in our recycling tipping fees. With vehicle fuel, it's gone up just almost $100,000 in this year's budget. Our telephone maintenance, our original maintenance contract was within our budget. We came up with, updated our telephone service, I think it was 3 years ago, and that's come to fruition. So the increase in that line is $35,000. Our office equipment maintenance has increased $37,000, and then we have miscellaneous increases throughout the budget of $56,000. On our staffing increases and a couple of decreases, we have our health insurance came in an increase this year of $232,000, and that's based on our 11.3% guaranteed maximum rate. Compensated averages is down $100,000. Those, we have to have the availability of funds to pay people off if they choose to retire during the budget year, and this covers that. It's just a lower amount this year. Our union wages, including steps, which was a 3% increase, is an increase in $188,000. The New Hampshire retirement system did us a favor this year, but it will come back, I'm sure, in a couple of years, of a decrease of $177,000. Uniforms were up $16,000. We have our SAFER grant, that was the additional firefighters we were able to hire. That is a $7,000 increase to that line. And we had the COSAP grant officer, which is comprehensive opioid stimulant abuse program. We hired an officer for that, and that's $110,000, which is offset by the grant. We have a position upgrade in our deputy director, the environmental portion. We have what they call the MS4. It's our municipal separate storm sewer system. There's a lot of reporting that has to go on, and it's just a large process now that they have to go through, and so we've upgraded that position. We have an increase of $44,000 in the overtime for fire and police. We have a full-time detective secretary and a full-time town clerk tax collector that we're not using this year. There was a reduction of $135,000. And non-union raises, there's an increase of $186,700, which is a 3.5% increase. Just a couple of things we have for savings in our general fund appropriations. Our debt service for drainage bond had come to fruition last year, so that line's dropped $166,000. Library materials is down $22,000. 4th of July, because they're not running the midway, is down $10,000, and our operating supplies also is down just over $11,000. For a net savings of $210,000. But our general fund appropriations increased $784,000, but when you take into account those net savings of those last few things, the total general fund increase is $574,785. If you're an insomniac, you've come to the right place. So the last couple of things, the increases are, of course, a big part of the story that we have to pay attention to. Our goal as a council has always been to pay attention to the property tax rate. The stability of it is important to us, and by trying to keep it as even keel as possible, it's much easier on everybody budgeting for their tax bills. Our revenues, we have an increase in the solid waste revenue of $190,000. Our interest income, because interest rates have gone up, is that line's increasing $261,000. The COSOP grant that I spoke about earlier was $110,000 to cover those expenses. Charges for services is up $70,000. Restaurant licenses is up $17,000, and then we have miscellaneous revenue increases of $46,000. Our decreases in our current use tax, we're anticipating $50,000 less than that. Building permits are going to be down about $64,000, and state revenue sharing for the New Hampshire retirement system is down $181,260 for a net revenue increase of $398,544. And then the last thing, I promise, is we use our unreserved fund balance. We like to keep it around 6%. The requirement is between 4 and 8%. We are using, to reduce taxes, we're using $985,000. And then we have one-time expense for capital projects we focus on. And this year, we're using $1.4 million of the unreserved fund surplus to pay for our pump replacement at the highway garage, which is now over 30 years old. The total reduction of the unreserved fund balance is $2,384,500, which is an increase from last year of $1,034,500, which in the unreserved fund balance then will put us, if all these things come to fruition, it will put us at 5.7%, which is kind of where we look to be in the middle. Our other capital outlays are, we've budgeted for a sprinkler system in Town Hall of $150,000. That system was installed in the 80s, and it's now springing air leaks, which makes the compressor run all the time to keep the pressure in the line so it doesn't activate. Then building and grounds also, we have the church parking lot at the Congregational Church. That parking lot is going to be $92,000. We have to budget for that, but our shared cost is going to be, from the town, is $50,000. The church will be covering the other portion. We have a decrease on communications. The 800 megahertz upgrade happened last year, so that's a decrease in our budget this year because we don't need that money again. Let me see, we're purchasing a brine storage tank for Public Works for the highway garage for a road treatment. And the solid waste facility, we need an office trailer because the floor is collapsing in our current trailer. And then lastly, police vehicles, it's $28,500 for an upfit. That's an increase in the budget for upfit and price increase in the cruiser. And our road infrastructure this year, we're putting in $800,000. And I think that's it. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm going to.
Before you go on with questions, if I could, because I failed at my job, I didn't introduce everybody, Lynn, so when should I do that?
I realized I neglected to do that. If you would like to introduce everybody now, I would be happy to have you do that.
All right. We'll start to my right. You know Lynn, the town moderator, of course, but the town attorney, Steve Whitley, is off to the right. Then we have town manager Paul McCallie. To his left is Andy Hunter. Directly to my right is Vice Chair Nancy Harrington. On my left is Councilor Tom Koenig. Then Nancy Murphy is to his left. and Barbara, oh,
Barbara's there.
I wrote
She's
it down
hiding.
wrong. I told us. We have Barbara Haley to Tom's left, and Nancy Murphy, and then Lon Woods, and
Behind you?
behind me, we have our finance manager, Tom Boland, and Diane Trippett, the town clerk tax collector, off on my left. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will apologize for my casual attire tonight. This is not how I usually show up, but we just got our power back shortly before showing up here. So I'm going to take an unusual step of asking my assistant, Brian McCarthy, to take the podium.
We are discussing the article.
Lynn Christensen, Great Stone Drive, Merrimack. I would like to propose an amendment. I would like to add $10,314,000 to this budget. I need a second.
Do we have a second?
Thank you. I have, for a number of years, been asking to raise the pay level for my election employees. A lot of them actually do it as a volunteer. They don't want to be paid, but the others do. When I first started this job, they weren't paid. I said we ought to at least give them a stipend so they can take their spouse out to dinner sometime because they're spending so much time doing this. They are currently paid $7.25 an hour, which is minimum wage. My moderators are paying 10. The amount of responsibility and liability that the moderators are assuming on every election and every town meeting has increased drastically with all the changes that have come in with an election law. I've talked to the town for a couple of years about increasing this. When I asked Town Manager McCauley about this year, he said it's actually because of our charter, the pay rate has to be established by the town council. And in order to do this, we need to increase the budget. Even though there's sufficient funds in that line item, we need to increase the budget by this amount to allow these people to get a little more money. I've been on a listserv with the town clerks, the tax collectors, the supervisors, and the town moderators at the state level. They've been doing some polling as far as what other towns are paying, and most of them are paying at least this, if not more. So I'm going to ask you to support this increase to the budget so that we can pay at least those that would like to be paid a reasonable amount.
Any other discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, I am now going to ask for a vote on this amendment. Please take out your cards. If you are in favor of this amendment, please raise your card. Thank you. All opposed to the amendment? Amendment passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See, he does a great job of filling in for me. This is also in writing as it's supposed to. We will go on with Article number 3 relative to the Capital Reserve Expendable Trust Funds. Nancy? Oh, I'm sorry. Any other discussion on the budget? I'm getting ahead of myself. Come on ahead, Rosemary.
Hi, Rosemary Rung, 21 Ministerial Drive. Mr. Rothaus, what was the, I didn't see it in this book, but the revenue sharing from the state, and did that include the town's share of rooms and meals tax?
Paul?
That decrease was that extra amount of money that we have just for police and fire portion of the 7.5% of the police and fire portion of the New Hampshire retirement systems. So that decrease that Chairman Rothaus was talking about was because we don't know if we're going to get that money back this year.
Okay, all right. And then one other minor question. I noticed on page 6, and it's also, I think, on another page too, but the valuation for state property tax rate, I'm assuming that's supposed to be a comma. It should be 5,062,905,168.
We use the period because you have to divide that number by 1,000 to come up with the tax rate. So we use the period. So yes, you're right. Our valuation in the town is $5 billion. But
Okay.
to come up with the tax rate, we have to divide by 1,000. So that's
Okay.
why we use the period there.
Maybe a suggestion for next year is maybe just to put that in, because it's kind of, the reader is assuming it's in the same value as the other numbers on that, in that table.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to discuss the budget? Seeing no, the budget will go to the warrant as amended. The final number on that article will be $35,311,135. That's the amended amount.
38,801,818. Am I right, Tom? So that's 38,801,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. All right. All right, give it to me again, Paul. 38,
$38,801,818.
okay. Sorry, I was reading the default one I added. My bad. All right, we're going to go on to Article 3, relative to the capital reserve expendable trust funds.
I move this article as written.
Thank you. Tom, second, thank you. Nancy, you have the floor.
Well, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I'm just going to talk about it for a moment. Through the wisdom of previous councils, selectmen, and citizens of Merrimack, these basically savings accounts, that's what they call capital reserve funds, were established in order to save up for larger expenditures like fire trucks, infrastructure, the paving, things like that. It really helps prevent us having to bond a lot of things. We are in a fortunate position that we're really in good shape compared to other towns in terms of the number of bonds that we have. Our rating is very good as a result. Another byproduct is we also don't have to pay the interest in the bonds. So we are in fact saving money. So this has been a long established pattern, and this is a continuation of that.
Anyone else would like to speak to this article? Seeing none, it will move to the ballot as printed. We'll go on to Article number 4, relative to the Sewer Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund. Lon? You move the article as printed?
I move the article as printed, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And Andy, thank you for your second. Lon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. In my usual bent, my comments would be mirrored by Councilor Harrington's comments about the other capital reserve funds. I recommend this passage. Thank you.
Sorry, guys, it's warmer here than it is in my house. Anyone else want to speak to this article? Seeing none, it will move to the warrant as printed. We're going to go on to Article number 5. These are the cost items in the IAFF Local 2904. Andy, I believe this is you.
Move the article as printed.
Thank you. And Barb, that's a second. Barb Healy, thank you. Andy, you have the floor.
The IAFF contract covers 36 members. This is a 3-year deal totaling $361,768. The first year covers a 3% wage increase, plus typically we pay extra for EMT, AEMT, which is advanced EMT, Paracert, Firefighter 2, and longevity pay. We've also included 10 cents into the base pay to cover these that used to be paid separately. Year 2 is also a 3% wage increase along with year 3. Clothing allowance, so there's an increase in uniform items and also a reduction in prorated allowance after probation from $70 to $50. It also includes an adjustment to uniform items issued to firefighters and paramedics when hired. And there's a change to the life insurance. So currently, life insurance is $10,000 for employee, $1,000 for spouse, and $500 or $100 for children. This is increased to one-time salary for employees, $10,000 for spouse, and $5,000 for children.
Anyone else want to speak to this article? It cannot be amended, but if you'd like to discuss it, you're welcome to. Seeing none, it will move to the warrant, the ballot as printed. We're going to go on to the next article, which is the Merrimack Town Council, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, 93, Local 3657. Barb?
Madam Moderator, I move this article as written.
Thank you. Second. Nancy, thank you.
Hi, everyone. As the moderator just stated, this is the collective bargaining agreement for the police and our fire supervisors. There is a 4-year contract with wage increases over the 4 years. And in addition to that, there's an increase in benefit for disability insurance. This action will actually help to bring this particular group of employees up to a little bit more equal with our competiting municipalities in and around the area. Right now, they're somewhat under that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to discuss this article? Again, it cannot be amended, but we're willing to listen to questions or comments. Seeing none, it will move to the warrant, to the ballot as printed. We'll go on to Article 7. We're getting there. Tom, I believe this is you.
Yes, ma'am. I move Article 7 as printed.
Thank you. Second. And Nancy, second. Thank you. Tom, you have the floor.
Thank you. This article refers to the Union 2986 contract, which has about 40 members in it. This is the DPW laborers. That includes highway, solid waste, equipment maintenance, and wastewater. Because they were without contract before, there's been some modifications to the way this one has been put together. Basically, in year 1, we're sliding the pay scales 2 steps and adding 2.5 between years 10 and 15 and years 15 and 20, the top 2 steps. So you'll see that that has a net cost of $162,748. The 3-year deal totals $375,329. In year 2, we're talking about a 3% slide in the upper scale, a slide of 1 step in the upper scales, and again, a 3% wage increase. And in year 3, it's a straight 3% wage increase. This is being done, and as has been said in other ones, to try and bring people into alignment with our competitive communities around us and to try to make sure that we can keep our trained people and not lose them to the competition. There are a lot of other things involved, have been spoken about in others. There's a slight increase in the clothing allowance, a slight change to the vacation time that new hires can, who have successfully completed 6 months are eligible for vacation time. And the supplemental compensation, the life insurance benefits that were mentioned earlier are being extended here as well. 1X salary for employees, $10,000 for their spouse, $5,000 for children, and other minor changes, recognitions in the scales, and adjustments to the hours of work and overtime. At this point, we'd appreciate your support for this contract. Thank you.
Again, it cannot be amended, but is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or against or have questions on this article? This is going to be your last chance to get up here and speak. Seeing none, it will move to the ballot. I'm sorry, you want to speak? Not yet. It'll move to the ballot as printed. Before we leave tonight, I want to make special thanks to someone who has been here as a huge support to not only me, but to the town over these many, many years. I'm dreading the day when he retires. Bob Malloy has done a phenomenal job with all of the challenges that we have given him, and I think we deserve. Finley had his up first, but you can fight him for it.
No, I'm going to,
Okay, Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would like to introduce my staff that's in the audience tonight, starting with Yvette Crozer, the library director, Cowser. Becky Thompson is behind her. She's the executive secretary, and she keeps the town council and myself in check. Chief Mark DeFranzo of the fire department. Next to him is Matt Kasparius, Parks and Rec. In the first section of bleachers is Tim Thompson, community development director. In the chairs is Sharon Marunich, human resource director. Our brand new DPW director, and welcome back, Dawn Tuamala. Behind her is Pat Murphy, our welfare administrator. Behind her is Police Chief Brian Levesque. I also have Deputy Town Clerk Tax Collector in the back, Brenda DeLong. And in the very back is Deputy Finance Director Xenia Simpson. And I think that's everybody who's here from the staff. Pat, are you out there? Pat Lamont? Pat Lamont is the payroll, Count Clerk 3 payroll. And that's the staff. Thank you very much.
Finley, you all set?
yes, I would like to, Lon Woods has chosen not to run for re-election, and so we should wish him well in his endeavors. He's been a real great asset. The wisdom he brings to the council, has brought to the council over the years that I've served with him, has been wonderful. So
In many capacities, he's
In
been
many
active,
capacities.
and we appreciate it.
yeah, so thank you. Lon. Thank you.
That's all she wrote, folks. Thank you. Second? Second. All in favor, raise your yellow card. Last chance. There we go. Until next year, folks. Thank you.